Hey, this is Randy from BibleBuyingGuide.com. Today I'm taking a look at the Cambridge KJV Clarion Reference Edition in black goatskin. This is a nice little Bible, a little hand-sized Bible. Let's take a look. Alright, it is goatskin with edge-line liner, and this is a synthetic liner. It has perimeter stitching, nice elegant design, feels nice and elegant. Let's look at the size. It is 7.5 from outer edge to outer edge, and then just a touch over 7 for the text block itself. And then we have 5.5 or 5 inches. So 5.5 or 5. It has red and gold head tailbands, and then 2 cardinal red ribbons. Art gilt edges, meaning that it's red under gold. And then the paper is 28 GSM Endopaque. This is the same paper that you find in the Cambridge Turquoise, the Crossway Heirloom series, and the Scholar Thin series, personal size series. So here's some information in the front that talks about the paper is supplied by, I'm not going to pronounce that, from France. This is milled in France. Printed and bound by Royal Youngblood in the Netherlands. And then it shows here that the typeset in 8.75, 10.5 lexicon number 1A by Blue Heron Bookcraft. The 8.75 refers to the actual font itself. The 10.5 refers to the font plus the space between the lines. So that's the leading. The paper's nice. I like this paper a lot. This is some of my favorite paper. Even though it's thin, it doesn't feel that thin to my fingers. This is different paper than what you're going to find in the brown calfskin edition. So this is actually the higher quality paper. It includes the epistle to James, the translator to the reader. Then we get into the text eventually. Now, there's the big deal about this one. It's set in paragraph rather than verse by verse. So it's almost like what they've done is taken the verses away, made it a readable text, fixing broken sentences, putting them all back together. But they didn't change the text. The text is still the standard Cambridge text. And then they added the verse numbers back in. And as you can see, it does have the verse numbers out here in the margins in bold. That makes it easy to find. They're right near where the references are. So if you're looking for verse 16, it's right there on that same line. I use that to find them. It has 45,000 references from Zondervan, and it does include the translator's footnotes. And then the text itself does include the footnote and reference keys. Really easy to see. One thing I like about this, though, is that it has a poetic setting. It has about 12 words across, which is about perfect. I mean, that's excellent. There's a poetic setting. So poetry is put in to look like poetry. Letters are made to look like letters. There's an example in Ezra where a letter looks like a letter. They indent them. Now, I wouldn't mind if it had a little bit of space between. It's not as elegant as the New King James, but it's still nice, really nice. They do include letters in the New Testament in the book of Acts, Acts 15 and Acts 23, if I'm right, in that range. But then it doesn't include poetry in the New Testament except for Luke. So there's the poetic setting. It is printed with line matching. So it looks really nice. It's clean. I like this one. This is an excellent reader. Now, in Proverbs, the line matching is not lined up that well. But not all of Proverbs is that bad. Some of it is better than others, but Proverbs is what stands out to me. So it fixes all the broken sentences, but now it doesn't fix them when it comes to chapters. I'll show you what I mean. If you look at Acts, there's Acts 15. This is a black letter text. So if you look at Acts 22, 21 ends with a comma, and then 22 starts with the next chapter. So they do have that break, whereas something like the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible does not include that break. It places this in the same paragraph. I'll show you that. Here's an example of where sentences are put back together. Ephesians 3, 1 through 7 is actually one sentence. But the standard layout of a KJV, being verse by verse, places each verse in a capital letter as if it were a standalone sentence. So here's what it looks like in the Clarion. Verse 2 starts with a small letter. Verse 3, small letter, because it just continues the sentence. All the way through, all the way down. But this is a nice little Bible. It's easy to carry, easy to hold. I love holding this. You know, it's not as, it doesn't open as much as the calfskin edition does, but it's still open well enough, and it's easy enough to handle. It's easy enough to hold. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. It is a little slippery, but not as bad as I expected. And then in the back, we have, instead of a concordance, and instead of a dictionary, and instead of a glossary, it has what you call the Reader's Companion. And now that Reader's Companion is a combination of all that. So it does include updated words, words that have changed meaning. It gives them back here, and then it has definitions and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit of a dictionary, and then it gives you references. One problem with the dictionary is that there's going to be things that you might disagree with, just like any dictionary. It does include information about the books. Like 2 Peter, it says that it may have been written by someone else, which, you know, that's something different there that you would have to research and study. But most of it I do like, and I do think it is really good information. And then in the back we have the maps, 15 maps, and they do include the color-coded map index. And then the maps themselves are printed on non-glossy paper. All this is non-glossy paper. You can put it directly under a light. There's no glare at all. Easy to read. So there's the maps. I like the colors of these maps. I like them a lot. They look sharp. Nice. Really nice. So, I've even preached from this quite a bit. It's easy to preach from because it's easy to just to find the verse numbers. If you're looking for, well, there's 34:2. It's going to be near it, 34:2, and I'll just look in that range, and there it is. You know, it does take an extra second, but it's worth it to me. That extra second is worth it to me. Now that doesn't mean that I don't recommend preaching from verse by verse. I preach from both. I use them both. So here is Luke. You have just a few places in Luke that has a poetic setting, and then that's it for the New Testament for poetic setting. You do have a few letters in Acts, and that's all. Okay, so let's look at the weight of this thing. It weighs 1 pound and 12 ounces. 1 pound and 12 ounces. That's not too bad. That's good and carryable right there. That's a hand size, but it doesn't feel like a hand size when you're reading it. It's almost a 9-point font, and it's dark and sharp and easy to read. Let's do some comparisons. All right, so here is the calfskin. Now, the main difference is the paper. The calfskin paper is not as opaque and as elegant as the goatskin paper. So this goatskin is actually more opaque than this. This has a little bit of a coating feel to it, and this does not. This is a rougher texture. Now, from my experience, this will page curl before this will. I don't think any paper today is 100% page curl free, but I'll have page curl on a 36 GSM before I'll have it on this sometimes. It depends on the weather. But this one, you can see how this one will open up a little more than this one will. And that causes that page to go further. But at the same time, it's not that bad. Not bad at all. For size comparison, here is the Pitt Minion. The Pitt Minion. give you an idea of the footprint is close to the same, but where you're going to see a difference is in that font size. That font size is massively different. So there you go. Pitt Minion versus Clarion. I love the Pitt Minion. It's one of my favorite Bibles of all time, but my eyes don't love it so much. This one is the 27 GSM paper, so this one is the not as good a paper as this one. And this one is red letter also, where this is black letter. And if I could read the Pitt Minion as my primary Bible, I would carry this everywhere, and I would never need another Bible. This is beautiful. This has the same references as this, and it has the same Reader's Companion, and same maps, of course. But yeah, the size difference of the text block is you know, it's worth it to me to carry the little bit larger, to have a lot larger font. Here is the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible. I'm going to have to zoom out, I think. I think I'm zoomed in too far. Here's the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible. And this one is the non-apocrypha edition. And as you can see, is a little bit thinner than the Clarion. They have close to the same font size. The Clarion is actually a touch larger. I would say by half a point at the most. Maybe a quarter point. Maybe 0.5. It's just noticeable. And I really only notice that when they're side by side. But as you can see, they're very similar in their layout. This one has a little bit rougher texture to the paper. They're both nice and dark. Both look great. I love the look of both of these. They both have line matching. This one, where the line matching doesn't line up, is on the first page of every book. And that seems to be consistent all the way through. First page of every book. So you got line matching. And then, of course, that one does have line matching. Then you don't have line matching. It's not that bad, though. But where this one excels is that it actually does fix more than this one does. This fixes chapters. And I'll show you. Acts 20. There's the other letter, Acts 23. Clarion follows that. Acts 22. Instead of 21 ending and then 22 starting at a different location, 22 starts right here. Right there. Because it's a sentence. It shouldn't be broken apart. And they fixed that here. I like that. So as you can see, these are geared toward reading. Nice and readable. And it doesn't have any other tools in the back. It does not include references. It does not include maps and concordance. Another Bible I like to compare is the personal size Canterbury from Scholar. They use the same paper. The Canterbury is a little bit thinner. The Canterbury does not include concordance. Footprint is really close. Now, this one uses the traditional verse-by-verse layout that you're going to find in most KJVs. The font in this is 8.5, while the font in the Clarion is 8.75. So it's just larger, just a touch larger, but it's hard to tell the difference, really. The advantage in this one is that it is a double column with the references at the bottom, so the references don't take up space in the margin, while this one does. But this one's a single column, and that's really the better way to make a single column. It actually is. This one does have single column for Psalms, which looks nice. So there's Psalms versus Psalms. Looks really nice. And of course, you got your decorative drop caps. Looks really nice. Both are elegant Bibles. Same paper. Now the other Cambridge that's anywhere near this size is going to be the Concorde. Concorde is noticeably thinner, but has a larger footprint, and they're about the same weight. These two have the same paper, And as you can see, that one is a lot darker. So we're looking at verse by verse versus paragraph with a poetic setting. So there's nothing to stand out here at all, as far as, all the text looks the same. Letters look the same. Poetry looks the same all the way through. Whereas with this one, you're going to find poetic setting and prose all the way through. Not so much in the New Testament as far as poetry, but it will be in paragraph. And it does include paragraph all the way through Revelation. Whereas this one, you're going to find pilcrows to indicate paragraph, and that's going to end back here, where after Acts 20, 21, in that range, there are no more pilcrows, so you don't have any more chapter breaks. Now this one has a glossary and a dictionary and a concordance, all three, and the same maps. But yeah, that's a nice Bible too. I like that one. If you're interested in verse by verse, this one favors navigation, while this one favors readability. So Cambridge did provide this in exchange for an honest review, and I do like it. I highly recommend it. My opinion is that this paper is worth the extra cost over the calfskin. It is easily worth the extra cost. I do love the calfskin. It's the one I've used for years and years. It's the one that I've carried with me everywhere, the one that I like the feel of. But this one, it's easy enough to hold open. It is floppy. If you want to flop it around, you can. But it's easy enough to hold open. But this paper is so good. I like this paper so much better that I'm willing to pay the extra for this. I highly recommend it. So I'll place some links in the notes. You can see the written review on BibleBuyingGuide.com with more detail. And I'll post some notes, some links where you can buy this. Thanks for watching.